Fair use. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing.
Before we start the video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I appreciate all the support I received from you. And as always, all the information in my videos is rumors taken from the internet or the street. I'm not saying the information is fact.
Pick your mans up.
Just because people used to come through shooting us every day. And this block, words can't even explain. Can't even explain.
Yeah, man.
Little School Valley, 051 Young Money.
Young Money, man. They in the building.
600 boy, LA, man. LA Capone, man. Get it to him, man. OC2 boys, man. Team
Number 9, man. Number 9 shooter, you hear me?
Hey, bitch, you little bitch. Yeah. What the fuck is wrong with you? Hey, I am Brick Squad. Yeah, Brick Squad, boy. What the fuck is you talking about, bro?
You have to be willing to die or go to jail for 100 years if that's the lane that you're stepping in. You have to understand that whether you're 15, 16, you got to think like a man. You know what I'm saying?
So don't be in it. Oh, you're not? Why does everybody say you're only 16 years old?
They say what they want to say.
How old
How old are you?
300.
The story of Munna Duke. Welcome to a new video. Today, we're diving into the story of Munna Duke from Oblock, a well-known figure in the drill scene. Duke was one of the original members of what would later become known as Wick City, active even before the name existed. He played a frontline role during the Get Back Gang era, a period marked by a wave of retaliation shootings after the murder of Rachaun on Valentine's Day, 2017. In addition to his reputation in the streets, Duke was also a part-time rapper, releasing several tracks that racked up hundreds of thousands of views. I also want to add a quick disclaimer. I won't be getting into Munna Duke's personal relationships or any drama involving other people's baby mothers. I don't think that stuff is relevant here. And honestly, I don't care. I hope you enjoy this video as we take a closer look at his life. Munna Duke, or King Kong, whose real name was Rachaun Vance, was born on February 13, 1994, on the south side of Chicago. Munna Duke was raised in the infamous Calumet building at 6217 S. Calumet Avenue on Chicago's south side. This 16-story high-rise, managed by the Chicago Housing Authority, was a major fixture of the city's public housing landscape until it was torn down in 2007 as part of the CHA's citywide effort to replace high-rise developments with mixed-income housing. Built in the mid-1900s, the Calumet building gained a notorious reputation during the 1990s and early 2000s as a stronghold for the Black disciples, who referred to it as the Castle. During that time, the gang was reported to have run a large-scale drug operation from within the building, pulling in serious profits. Though its demolition was meant to break up concentrated poverty and crime, the disappearance of the Calumet building, and others like it, also led to the spread and relocation of gang activity into nearby neighborhoods. The Calumet buildings, specifically 6217 S. Calumet, weren't just another set of high-rises in Chicago. They were a major hub for the Black disciples and served as a launching pad for many names that would go on to shape the city's street scene. A lot of well-known figures across different sets trace their roots back to these buildings. Here's a breakdown of some of the people who grew up there. Melly from 051 Young Money, whose stepfather Fido was a major BD figure, Lil Varney, Chief Wook, D Slick, and Lil Reese from Lamron, C-Day, E-Day, and Blast His AVS from 600, and Lil B from EBT, who originally came out of Timb. Even Jaro City, which most associate with GDs today, had ties to the BDs at one point, back when it was called Dark Side and under BD control due to the Calumet Building influence. That changed when Kingscan, a well-respected BD leader, had it returned to its original people because he had ties in the area. He's now serving a 25-year sentence expected to end in 2025, and he's also the father of Lil Scan from 8 Trey Mob/Evans Mob, as well as another son in Jaro City. Chief Keef even touches on this connection in his track The Talk, where he says, "My pop's from the other side, dude, F him too," referencing his father Big F, a BD from Dark Side/Jaro City. Other notable names from the Calumet buildings include Capo, Doo-Wop, and Mineski from NLMB, Cortez, Courtney, Money Man, and Face from Timb, Ty from YMB, who Timb is named after, Frito Santana and Blood Money from Front Street, Poo Poo from SMB, Chicken, So Icy, and Wee Wee from EBT, Bruh Bruh from THF46/Oblock, and of course, Munna Duke from Oblock, as mentioned earlier. The 6217 building wasn't just a home, it was a key part of the city's gang legacy, shaping many of the crews and conflicts that would define an era. Duke's early years were shaped inside the walls of the Calumet building, surrounded by a group of kids who, like him, would eventually grow into the gang culture they were born around. It was there he built relationships with others his age, bonds that would later become street alliances. When the building was demolished in 2007, Duke and many others relocated to Parkway Gardens, what the world now knows as Oblock. Back then, though, it was just another housing complex filled with kids playing outside, shooting hoops, and hanging out. Sure, there was some violence, but nothing close to what the area would eventually become known for. In the beginning, Duke was more into minor stuff, stealing bikes, fighting, and getting into the kind of trouble a lot of kids do. But as the years passed, things escalated. What started as small-time mischief slowly turned into real violence. There's a common rumor that Parkway Gardens used to be GD territory, and while there's some truth to that, the full story is more nuanced. Back in the mid-2000s, around 2005 to 2007, Parkway didn't really have a defined gang identity. Crime was just starting to show up, and it mostly involved a loose group of local friends. At that point, the block wasn't repping BD or GD officially. In fact, before Parkway developed its own reputation, the area had a mix of affiliations. You could find GDs, BDs, Black P, Stones from the east side, and even Mickey Cobras from the low end coming through. It was quiet enough back then that people would casually post up outside the gates or hang in front of local stores without worrying too much about serious beefs. Things started shifting in 2007 when figures like Boss Top, OD, Platoon and others began showing up more consistently. That's when Parkway Gardens began to form a real identity, and the energy on the block began to change for good. The rumor that Parkway Gardens used to be GD territory isn't entirely off. It actually stems from a real chapter in the block's early history. The roots trace back to Boss Top, who originally came from No Love City, a known GD set. When Boss Top and his close associate Spike moved to Parkway Gardens, they brought a number of people from NLC with them. Spike, in particular, was a major figure in No Love, known for trapping with heavy hitters like The Godfather, a respected OG in that set. At that time, before Parkway fully transformed into what we now know as Wick City, it was largely influenced and run by guys from No Love. Another key name they brought with them was Big A, who would go on to become one of Oblock's most active and feared members. Around 2007 to 2008, things started to shift. Parkway Gardens began aligning more with street activity, and with that came the arrival of established black disciples. BD members like Reezy, Bruh, Slick, Willie, and Freak began settling in. These were respected figures who were already firmly GDK and refused to switch up their allegiance, even in the face of tension. That refusal caused friction between the older GD presence from No Love and the incoming BDs. While it never escalated into shootings, it did spark a number of physical confrontations and heated fights. Over time, Boss Top, BJ, and Bigga would flip and become BD themselves, though they kept things respectful with their No Love roots. In 2008, Parkway Garden street profile took a sharp turn when the block started beefing with the Met Boys. That's also when Bruh emerged as a major influence. His actions and leadership would go on to shape Parkway into the force it became. Bruh, originally from 46th, specifically DHF/Trigger Happy Family, used to run with guys like Baby Zoo and Bob O. When some of the older members from 46 Terror officially formed THF, Bruh, real name Kenyatta Clare, was part of that movement. Not long after, Kenyatta moved into Parkway Gardens, and with him came the street politics and existing beefs tied to THF, especially the tension with the Met Boys. Things escalated when Bruh allegedly shot at members of the Met Boys. In retaliation, they came to Parkway Gardens and shot at him and others. That incident shifted the landscape. Figures like Boss Top, BJ, and Big A, who were close with Bruh, got pulled into the conflict by association, becoming enemies of the Met Boys as well. Later, when 051 became its own set and formed an alliance with the Met Boys, Parkway Gardens was instantly labeled DIY by them, marking the start of the Parkway vs. 051 beef. Around 2009, as more BDs began moving into Parkway, the block needed a solid identity to reflect the shift. That's when they coined the name Wild Insane Crazy, eventually adding City to the end, following a trend similar to Jaro City. To make it clear they were with the Trays, they added 3 I's, Wick City. This solidified Parkway Gardens as BD territory. Around the same time STL was also coming together as a structured set. Before Parkway Gardens became known as Wick City and started beefing with STL/EBT, the early conflict was actually within King Drive itself. It was King Drive versus King Drive. Back then, there was a coalition called SKD, short for South King Drive. SKD wasn't just a crew, it was a movement that stretched across a wide area, from 51st to 62nd Street. Their goal was to control Parkway Gardens and bring it under their rules and structure. But guys like Boss Top, J Money, and others didn't go for that. Tensions escalated when Boss Top and his circle started robbing and jumping SKD members. SKD, who were already known to be strapped, retaliated by pulling up to Parkway and firing shots multiple times. But eventually, Wick City got just as deep in the streets and started retaliating too. J Money is alleged to have caught Reggie from SKD and killed him, and later, Anton from SKD was also gunned down. These killings severely weakened SKD. They lost ground and never really struck back. Over time, SKD dissolved, and a lot of its former members ended up joining other sets. Some went to EBT, others to STL, and a few to Jaro City. The fall of SKD marked a turning point in the power structure around Parkway. At that time, Duke was still too young to be a major voice in the streets. He was only about 13 or 14 years old. Guys like Boss Top, OD, Trey 5, Bangman and others were already 3 to 4 years older, and at that age, that kind of age gap really mattered. So Duke was more of a youngin in the mix, looking up to the older guys like Boss Top and OD. Back in 2009 to 2010, when the tension between STL/EBT and Wick City first started heating up, most of the beef hadn't turned deadly yet. It was mostly street fights, scuffles after school, on the blocks, or even when STL and EBT would come through Parkway to throw hands. Duke was active in those early days and took part in many of those fights, holding his own even as one of the younger ones on the front lines. Duke officially jumped off the porch around 2008 to 2009, when he was about 14 or 15. At that point, it was mostly street fights and small run-ins, nothing involving guns yet. As mentioned earlier, the conflicts back then were still more physical than deadly. But everything changed in 2011. Things got real when Tuka was killed, reportedly by OD from Wick City along with members from Temp. That moment marked a turning point. Just a few months later, OD was gunned down by members from STL/mob, and from there, the war escalated fast. The BD side, mainly Oblock and 600, went head-to-head with the GD side, including STL, Jaro City, and Mob. Other sets like Lamron, Front Street, and more were also pulled into the growing conflict. In 2008, at just 14 years old, Duke was arrested for the first time. Because of his age at the time, details on that initial charge are limited, but it was likely for a minor offense such as trespass. However, that first arrest marked the beginning of a long cycle. Duke would go on to be arrested over 30 times throughout his life for various crimes. His charges started to escalate in seriousness by 2012. On March 18th of that year, Duke was arrested for illegal gambling. Less than a month later, he was picked up again, this time for cannabis possession. Just 15 days after that, he was arrested for robbery. While he was quickly released for the first 2 offenses, the robbery charge led to real time. He served roughly a year and was released in May 2013. That freedom didn't last long. Not long after getting out, he was arrested again, this time for retail theft. Since he was still on parole from the robbery case, this new arrest meant additional jail time. During those years, Duke was in and out of jail so often that his pattern resembled Kingvon's early legal struggles. It became part of his lifestyle, bouncing between the streets and lockup. Around this time, Duke also started getting more active in the streets whenever he wasn't locked up. While there's no confirmed body tied to him during these early years, it's widely believed that he was involved in shootings, present during hits, and regularly slayed with other Oblock members. As Duke got older and proved himself, he earned the respect of the older members and fully cemented his place in the inner circle. If you look back on old group photos, he can be seen in all the old photos alongside some of the most prominent figures from Oblock. He wasn't just around, he was truly one of them. Like Kingvon and T-Roy, Duke may have been a youngin at first, but that phase didn't last long. He quickly rose through the ranks and became one of the most respected in Oblock. Duke was really built for it. Still, it wasn't until 2015 to 2016 that Duke really began making a name for himself in the field. By 2017, following the death of Kingvon, Duke emerged as one of the most active members during the height of the Get Back Gang era. But it was the murder of T-Roy that seemed to have the biggest impact on him. Those close to the situation say it changed him deeply, fueling a strong desire for retaliation. After a difficult 2016, where Oblock lost both Cheno and Big A, whom both were close with Duke, things only got worse in early 2017, as I just mentioned. On Valentine's Day, Oblock suffered a major loss when their top shooter, D-Roy, was shot and killed by TB from Taekwon World inside a convenience store on East 71st Street. T-Roy was reportedly looking for TB that day, which is why he was in Paxtown, an area TB was known to hang around. T-Roy was alone, scouting a street where TB had previously been seen in photos, hoping to catch him there. According to some sources, Brick from STL/EBT, who lived in Paxtown at the time, saw T-Roy and called TB to let him know. After getting the heads up, TB picked up 2 times from Taekwon World and Can't Get Right from STL/EBT and went to the area. T-Roy, staying alert, spotted the group, pulled out his gun, and tried to chase them down. They managed to get away, went back to their apartment, armed themselves, changed clothes, and returned to the scene. They caught T-Roy walking into a small grocery store. Surveillance footage shows TB and Can't Get Right entering the store and standing near T-Roy. Moments later, TB pulled out a gun and shot T-Roy once in the chest. TB and CGR then ran out and fled the scene. It played out like a calculated move. TB was listed as a suspect in the official report, and despite clear video evidence and witnesses, he was never charged. This was a major win for Taekwon World and their allies. By this point, it was well known that T-Roy was one of Oblock's most feared members, right alongside his close friend Kingvon. The two were central figures in Oblock's operations, and their impact was significant. Together, they were believed to be responsible for a double-digit body count. Oblock leaned heavily on both of them. After T-Roy's murder, members of Oblock and 600 regrouped and began mapping out how they would retaliate. While Get Back Gang had technically formed after Big A's death, it was T-Roy's killing that truly ignited the movement. The day after the murder, Buka600 posted his now well-known tweet, "Y'all don't know the half of what's finna transpire." Duke, who had grown up with T-Roy and was extremely close to him, took the loss especially hard. That pain fueled his drive to become one of the lead shooters in the Get Back mission for his friend. He was out sliding constantly, often with E-Dog, HK, BJ, and others, targeting Jaro, STL, and especially Taekwon World. They were moving through rival blocks almost daily, on a relentless hunt for retaliation. It is also now that a large part of Duke's story begins to unfold. namely during the Get Back Gang era, where he was allegedly involved in multiple murders. And now, Duke would catch his first alleged body. On May 14, 2017, a murder took place that many believe marked the beginning of the Get Back Gang campaign. Lil Ho from Jaro City was standing with a group near East 62nd Street and Eberhard Avenue when 4 gunmen suddenly appeared from an alley and opened fire using 3 different handguns, a 9mm, a .40 caliber, and a .45 caliber. Lil Ho attempted to run west but collapsed at 6159 South Eberhard. One of the shooters reportedly stood over him and fired several more rounds before all 3 fled east on 62nd Street, getting into a waiting red vehicle. Authorities recovered 30 shell casings at the scene. Munna Duke is alleged to have been involved, along with 2 or 3 others including the getaway driver. Names like Mikado, Gleish, and E-Dog have also been linked to the incident. Lil Ho was an older member from Jaro City and this hit was a clear message from Oblock. Lil Ho was hit multiple times in the head and Oblock did that for a reason, not because Lil Ho had any involvement in T-Roy's death but because they were going after everyone. An interesting detail is that Lil Ho was actually the uncle of Breezy from 600. After the murder, Breezy paid his respects to him, but at the same time, he understood why OB600 did what they did. At the end of the day, Lil Ho was still an op. Duke, alongside HK, was one of Oblock's most active members during the summer of 2017. By June, both were reportedly involved in yet another killing. On June 2nd, E-Dog from Oblock tweeted, "Summer 2K17, loada Get Back Gang. Shit bout to be going on," tagging it with, #It's gonna be a cold summer. Just 2 weeks later, that message turned real. On June 16th, Taekwon World suffered a serious loss when Poppy, best friend of the late DB, was shot and killed. Though Poppy had deep ties to the streets, he had recently taken up a job at the L&P Wholesale Candy Company on South State Street, which sits inside DoD territory. DoD, a BD-affiliated set with ties to Front Street, was definitely not a safe zone. It's still unclear why Poppy chose to work there, especially while Oblock and 600 were aggressively seeking revenge for T-Roy. Some believe Taekwon World may have underestimated just how committed Oblock was to getting payback. That day at work, an older woman asked the store manager if someone could help her carry groceries. The manager called on Poppy. As he helped load her bags into the car and made small talk near the trunk, the woman noticed a masked man walking up with what looked like an AK. Moments later, the shooter opened fire, 5 shots, 3 of them to Poppy's head, before fleeing the scene. Poppy was taken to Strodger Hospital, where he passed away 3 hours later. The lone shooter in this hit was allegedly T-Roy's younger brother, HK, later known by names like Headshot King or Headshot Heck. Munna Duke from Oblock was also reportedly involved and was the alleged driver on the hit. However, according to the police scanner, it was 2 shooters that jumped out, and if that's the case, Duke was definitely one of them. I doubt that HK jumped out alone. Members rarely do hits alone in case someone would return fire, so it's highly possible that Duke was one of the killers as well. Many might recall the video that surfaced after the murder, showing HK casually smoking with the caption "Poppy Wood." Poppy was heavily mocked after his death, not only because of his close ties to DB, but also due to his suspected role in the murder of Cheno from Oblock, BJ's brother. The story goes that Cheno had shot Poppy's cousin, Young, from STL/EBT, prompting Poppy to retaliate by killing Cheno. However, there are those who argue that it wasn't Taekwon World but No Love City behind Cheno's death. As mentioned before, both Duke and HK were among the most active members of the Get Back gang. Many fans of the drill scene are familiar with Duke's track 12 AM, where he raps, "Get Back Gang. That's me," and heck a nod to the duo's involvement. It's also worth noting that Taekwon World, Jaro, Mob, and STL/EBT weren't moving recklessly at the time. Oblock was sharp when it came to gathering intel and operated with precision. They had help, too. Many other BD sets pitched in by sharing details like locations, vehicle info, and addresses of targets. With that kind of network, bodies were dropping fast, and OB600 had no intention of slowing down. After Duke's recent death, Mook from Taekwon World uploaded a picture of both Poppy and TB from Taekwon World, and if you know the scene and the culture, you know what that means, that the killer, or someone that was at least involved in that member's death, has died. HK was one of Duke's closest friends, they often slayed together. As Duke once rapped, it was him and HK who was Get Back Gang, with HK holding the title of King Get Back. Exactly 1 month later, on July 17, 2017, 2 more people were killed in a coordinated hit carried out by members of 600 and Oblock. Brick, who was rumored to have tipped off DB and Get Right about D-Roy's location, and his cousin Kobe Mack were outside on the 6300 block of South St. Lawrence, a known STL/EBT hangout. OB600 allegedly received word about their location and moved quickly. 2 cars from OB600 circled the block, with 1 vehicle parking on 6312S roads. A white SUV then pulled up to the curb in front of the houses, and a shooter jumped out, firing 9 times at Kobe, hitting him 4 times in the face. Brick tried to run but was chased into a gangway, where at least 2 other shooters were waiting. He was shot 6 times, including once under his right eye. Both Kobe, 31, and Brick, 26, died at the scene, and the shooters fled in the same vehicles they came in. Police later named C. Murda from Oblock and Cap FCK12 from 600 as suspects in the case. C. Murda is also facing life in prison for his alleged role in the FBG Duck murder. Other names connected to the hit include HK, Trey 5 from Oblock, and Mikado from 600, who is believed to be the one who shot Kobe. Munna Duke's name also came up, mainly because of a photo taken with Cap FCK12 on the same day. Whether or not that confirms his involvement isn't clear, but personally, it wouldn't be surprising if he was there. By that time, Duke was one of the more seasoned members, practically leading the drill efforts. Given his experience and the weight this hit carried, it's likely he played a role. 2.5 months later, the real Get Back arrived. After TB from Taekwon World killed HK's brother, T-Roy, HK made it clear he was going to even the score. On September 26, 2017, he got his opportunity. TB was out with side from Jaro City in the 7000 block of South Chapel Avenue, just a short 3-minute walk from where T-Roy had been killed. TB probably would have lasted longer if he'd stopped hanging around that area. It wasn't the smartest move, especially when Oblock already knew to look for him there, just like T-Roy had. Word is, HK had been relentlessly patrolling that area for weeks, searching for TB. With help from Moose Block, who reportedly gave up TB's location, HK got in traffic with Mikado from 600 and Munna Duke from Oblock. The trio drove to the spot and found TB inside sitting on a porch with 2 others. HK and Mikado jumped out of their black 4-door car and opened fire, hitting both TB inside multiple times, including headshots. According to Oblock members, TB was hit 17 times in total. A responding officer said there were a couple to the head, 1 to the neck and arm. Witnesses also claimed the shooters reloaded and fired again before speeding off. TB, who was 21 at the time, was pronounced dead at Northwestern Hospital. Side somehow survived the headshot but was tragically killed 2 years later alongside Motor from Jaro City, another hit, this time allegedly carried out by Gino from THF 46. Police spotted the suspect vehicle speeding away from the scene shortly after TB's murder. Dispatch described it as a black 4-door car with 2 masked individuals inside, one of them with a light complexion, matching Mikado's description. Interestingly, they also reported a second car, a white Dodge Charger, fleeing the area alongside the black one. This suggests OB600 may have used a 2-car setup, with both vehicles circling the block to locate TB. It's also believed that Muwap and Munna Duke from Oblock were part of the hit. After Duke's death, as mentioned earlier, Mook from Taekwon World posted a picture of both TB and Poppy, a signal in that world that someone involved in their murders had died. That points strongly toward Duke's involvement. He had mocked TB multiple times and had made it clear that Get Back Gang was essentially him and HK. The day after TB was killed, Mikado posted a photo of himself and HK throwing up LA hand signs, signaling unity and celebration. As with most high-profile hits, there was a wave of disrespect and mockery following TB's death. His passing only confirmed the long-rumored claim that he was the one who killed T-Roy. Lil Gerald tweeted, "Long live T-Roy Slayer," while LC from Taekwon World dubbed him Mr. T-Roy Slayer, giving TB his flowers for carrying out one of the boldest moves in the war. In a bittersweet twist, TB's final Facebook post on the morning of September 26 read, "I'm feeling blessed today." On November 24, 2017, HK from Oblock, the main figure behind Get Back Gang and the one who had avenged his brother T-Roy's death, was killed. At first, a lot of people, myself included, thought it was Wooski and Skinny from Jaro City who did it, but that turned out to be wrong. What actually happened was this: HK, along with Mikado and Lil D, tried to rob a 25-year-old man inside the Parkway Gardens housing complex. But what they didn't know was that the guy had a legal gun and a Ford card. He pulled his weapon and fired back, exchanging shots with HK and one of the others. HK was hit and died from his injuries, while Mikado and Lil D got away. Since the man acted in self-defense, he wasn't charged with anything. HK's death was a major blow to Oblock. The reaction from their rivals was instant. Taekwon World members Lil Bubba and Richie Jerk tweeted, "FHK, long live Biko and Poppy," basically confirming that HK was the one behind both of their deaths. Still, within Oblock and the broader 300 movement, HK was seen as a hero. Even Lil Durk gave him a tribute on Twitter after his passing. Duke, whom this story is about, took HK's death very hard as they were very close with each other. Duke was one of the older members that took HK under his wing and was a key factor to enable HK to do what he did. After HK got killed, things were kinda quiet for a while on the Get Back for T-Roy. But summer 2018? It turned out to be just as deadly as the year before. Get Back gang was on a mission. They were looking for Get Right, who was there when T-Roy got hit. Just that alone made him a target in Oblock eyes. They wanted everyone involved in T-Roy's death gone, and Get Right was the last name on that list. On June 15, 2018, word got back to Oblock about where Get Right was posted. He was chilling outside a store on 63rd, around the 400 block, with a few STL dudes. That's when a car pulled up in the lot next to the store, and out jumped Munna, Duke and Muwap. They got straight to it. Duke let off on Get Right, hitting him in the back multiple times and dropping him. At the same time, Muwap had his focus on an innocent bystander, Troy, a janitor who was just out there doing his job, whom he shot multiple times. After shooting Troy a few times, Muwap turned to the prime target and finished Get Right off with several shots while he was already down. They both dipped back to the car and sped off. On the way out, Rasta from EBT started firing back. Bullets barely missed Duke, one almost clipped his shoulder, another flew past his head. For some reason, this murder has turned into a pretty controversial topic. A lot of people out there believe it wasn't Duke or Muwap who pulled the trigger, or even that Oblock had anything to do with it. I remember exactly when those first theories started floating around, and who's been spreading them since. Over time, it's been one theory after another, and the latest one points the finger at Dro City. But to be honest, I don't buy any of that. From my point of view, it's clear that the most likely scenario is that Duke and Muwap were behind it, and here's why. Not long after the murder, Wooski posted, "Get right, these people not outside," followed by sad face emojis. That alone suggests it wasn't some internal issue, it was the ops. So right away, we can pretty confidently say this was an outside hit. Right after the news broke that Get Right had been killed, Kingvon hopped on Instagram live with Memo and just below from 600, and they were openly mocking him. Just 3 days after the shooting, E-Dog tweeted, "The Get Back not over." A week after that, E-Dog tweeted a picture of himself with Muwap, Duke, DQ, Gleesh, and Youngun. Caption, "You better get right or get left." Then a week after that, Kingvon tweeted, "Shout out that new OPAC my brothers made it," which clearly implies Oblock was responsible. And Von wasn't known for capping, so I take that seriously. Now, how do we narrow it down to Duke and Muwap specifically? The rumor that Duke was involved caught on quickly right after the shooting, and soon after that, Muwap's name came into the mix. And over time, both of them have dropped some not-so-subtle hints. One example? Duke once posted a picture of himself with Muwap, Duke throwing up a gun sign pointed toward the ground, and Muwap pointing his straight ahead. The caption said, "People wouldn't even know what type of bond me and this dude got." Picture speaks for itself. That last line stands out because the photo kind of mirrors how the shooting supposedly went down. Duke getting get right on the ground, and Muwap shooting the bystander before firing more shots at get right. Whether intentional or not, it paints a pretty vivid picture of what might have happened that day.
Can't get right.
There you go. There you
Can't get right,
go.
cause I can't get right.
All right, now, everybody, not at one time. What just happened?
He said,
Oh, see, this nigga a bug.
everybody don't speak at work.
Hold on. What just
A
happened?
lot of glizzies and efforts.
Hold on, you right there with your hand up. You tell me what happened. What's your name? Diddy from Fox? What happened?
That's what happened.
Who got killed? That's what I'm asking y'all. You right there in the back. Diddy from Fox. Who got killed, gang?
Yeah.
Can't get right, got killed.
Word.
Can't get right.
Hey, somebody show me a picture. I don't think I know y'all talking about.
Let's say drop a picture in the comments.
Show the first picture. Is this can't get...
Is that can't get right?
Hold on, is
Show
this
him.
him?
Is this
Or
can't get right?
Is
I
this
don't know
him?
how he look.
This what you look like?
This ain't called snitching. I'm just trying to get verified. Get verification.
Ah, dummy.
They tell us can't get up. Oh,
They always make some shit before we do it. They beat us to it every time.
y'all should start killing people.
Oh, bitch.
Cause y'all be doing this. You doing the name.
Oh, Steve, this nigga crazy. We doing y'all start killing people.
Yeah, they say can't get up.
Can't get up.
Can't get up.
Can't get up. Call this as can't
Get up.
Y'all sure he
Damn,
get
they
up?
just whack can't get up.
Somebody top him, see if he gonna get up. He probably overdead on niggas get killed. Niggas.
Folks say that.
No, they ain't just saying shit.
That's crazy. I just saw him in the video too.
For them,
What's
they
up,
acting
man?
like he was just that nigga too. Fucking different. Bitty.
Look at my girlfriend tweaking. How to read?
Damn, they the smoke can't get up.
Yeah, they mad.
They said 2 down. Damn.
2 men that nah, I can't
On
take
David,
2.
they said it on both our
I
lives.
could barely
On
take
David.
2 piece?
You know a paragraph, and when you see that paragraph.
You see that paragraph under that picture, you know it's over.
Damn, best friend, you just told me to pop out.
I remember back in the days when you
just told me to pop out, best friend. Why the fuck you do me like this? You bogus as hell. We ain't try to, bitch.
They
Shut
gonna
up.
be dissing the shit out you. You better not get caught like that. You can see
Oh, damn.
wait, you that. That's the thing I think
That's why I
about.
keep this G-lock or this FN on me on full. Big ass bodyguard.
Don't nobody even care about can't get right like that. I don't think they gonna slide like that. I don't think nothing finna happen because of that. So
They finna waste the rest of their money on that.
we ain't even gonna act like nothing finna happen. Just y'all go in the house.
They gotta pay for it.
Whoever ain't get shot, you lucky today. I'm phone going out. It's over.
Somebody's just tagging me in the post. What the fuck going on?
All good. So whoever's safe and whoever ain't getting nothing, just go out. It's over. Don't act like y'all finna slide back. Fuck that shit, man.
Just take it as an L. It's always. Fuck that shit as a
Got y'all next time, though. Y'all better run.
On video.
That's because they ain't, you know used to somebody just popping out a cut for real. Looking
at your ass.
Really on your ass. You just shit get the flat past your you just want to do like one of these because you acting like you fake tough. But when the bitch get the hitting you, damn, this shit, I can't move.
Crump getting that there, little fool. They got you too. Crump getting that there, little fool. They got you too.
He talking about down
Man, I was just thinking about you.
Oh, dang.
Jinx
I was
the shout
just
out.
telephone of you down there going crazy.
Now your goof ass up here. Now your goof ass up here with me.
GD. They mad. They finna go shoot some more hypes like they do every time for Get Back.
And there's more. When Duke got locked up on a gun charge a year or two after the hit, Muwap posted a photo of the two of them on his Instagram story with the caption, "You got the right, I got the left, we gun meet back up. Free Duke." That line is a pretty direct reference to the shooting. Not to mention, Kingvon also mocked Get Right in several of his tracks while giving shoutouts to Duke and Muwap. In the song 2 AM, he rapped, "Muwap did them dirty, now it's hot outside." On another track, Down Me, from the same album, he said, "Duke and Muwap shoot something, got 250s, they 100. Von even shouted Duke out in his debut track Beat Dat Body, rapping, "Kingvon, take Duke on a hit, he like King Kong." Later on, Muwap echoed that same nickname for Duke in one of his unreleased songs, where he rapped, "Duke like King Kong, standing over people in their hood." On top of all that, there's also Lil P from STL/EBT, who basically admitted in an interview that Oblock was behind Get Right's murder. And if that wasn't enough, Get Right's name also came up in the Oblock federal investigation into the murder of FBG Duck. The full context was redacted, but the fact that his name was even mentioned speaks volumes, at least for me. I've been following this scene closely for a long time, and I can say with a high level of confidence that if this had been a backdoor move or if another block was responsible for the murder, we would have known by now. From the very beginning, everything has pointed toward Oblock. When you watch closely, you start to notice the subtle things, the language people use, the tone of their social media posts, and even the direction the retaliation or pressure comes from after a murder. If 051 had been behind this, it would have been obvious, just like it was with Taekwon World and Melly's murder, long before Nate got arrested. Same way it was clear Oblock was behind the murder of FBG Duck, just by the energy online and the way certain members acted and carried themselves afterward. On October 18, 2018, just a few months after the murder of Get Right from STL/EBT/Hottie Way, Duke, who was allegedly involved in that killing, was shot himself. He was riding a bike at the time when he was hit, but fortunately for him, the bullet only struck his leg and he survived. Not long after the incident, Duke posted an Instagram story with the caption, "All that for a leg shot. You people are terrible." The shooters were reportedly Nella from Hottie Way and Wooski from STL/EBT/Hottie Way. When Kingvon got out of jail in late 2017, he quickly reconnected with his Oblock circle, especially Munna Duke, whom he held in high regard. Von respected the work Duke had been putting in, particularly following the murder of Get Right, which we mentioned earlier. That incident took place well after Von's release, and there are rumors that Von may have been the one who called for the hit. Kingvon therefore loved Duke and would often mention him in his songs, and he was frequently featured in his music videos. For instance, in one of Kingvon's early tracks, Problems, he raps the line, "They catching bodies from me in the hook," and every time that line plays, the camera focuses on Duke and other core Get Back gang members, making it clear who he was referring to. However, Duke never got the time to spend much time with Kingvon because in the fall of 2019, on October 30th, Duke was arrested and charged with gun possession, resulting in a 2-year prison sentence. Unfortunately, this meant he missed the rise of Kingvon's rap career. He wasn't around to witness Von's breakout success or experience those peak moments alongside him. Even more tragic, Duke received the news of Von's death while still locked up. The two shared a close bond, as reflected in Von's lyrics, "We gon' buy them all when they free Duke." Sadly, Duke never got to see Von's prime, and it's likely that hearing about his death from behind bars hit him incredibly hard. Duke was released on parole in the spring of 2021 and was welcomed back with a lot of support. Even Lil Durk showed him love. It was clear from early on that Duke was going to try his hand at rapping, just like many others from Oblock had already started doing. A few months after his release, he dropped his first tracks, beginning with 12 AM, followed by Winnin'. Both songs were solid, but they didn't quite break through. They lacked the distinctiveness needed to stand out. Like many from Oblock, Duke seemed to be trying to carry on Kingvon's legacy, but in reality, Von's legacy was simply too heavy. In the summer of 2023, Duke dropped his debut album titled Welcome to the Jungle. The project featured 12 tracks and included guest appearances from Me Dog, Prince Dre, and Shoebox Baby. Despite the features, the album received minimal attention, and it was clear Duke wasn't fully invested in the music. There wasn't much promotion or energy behind it. Outside of music, Duke stayed relatively low-key during this time. Most of the spotlight was on other Oblock members who were facing charges for the murder of FBG Duck. With many of them behind bars, Duke had become one of the few prominent figures from Oblock still on the streets. But in May 2025, his life was tragically cut short. Now we've sadly reached the end of this story, marked by the tragic deaths of Munna Duke and his close friend Youngin, both well-known figures from Oblock. In the early hours of May 10, 2025, around 1:20 a.m., gunfire erupted near Porkchop Barbecue at 6341 N. Broadway on Chicago's North Side. Police arrived to find 3 men shot. One of them was 28-year-old Youngin, who had been hit multiple times. He was rushed to St. Francis Hospital in Evanston, but didn't survive. Munna Duke, 31, suffered a gunshot wound to the chest and was taken to Weiss Hospital, where he was also pronounced dead. A third man, 36, was shot in the back and taken to Evanston Hospital in fair condition. While police haven't released his name, rumors are circulating that it may have been Domo from 600, who was reportedly with him that night. According to CBS 2, referencing police scanner audio, the shooting happened as the group stood on the sidewalk outside the restaurant. While official reports described the shooting as a drive-by, a different version of events emerged on Facebook from a woman whose daughter was at the scene that night. According to her post, her daughter had been out with friends at a nearby bar. As they were heading to their car, they spotted a man in a ski mask pacing outside. She also claimed that several people inside the bar were wearing ski masks as well. Moments later, as a group of men exited the bar, the masked man allegedly opened fire on them, then ran toward her daughter's car. One of the bullets even struck the vehicle. Thankfully, her daughter and her friends were unharmed, a fact the mother credited to the grace of God. However, other witnesses offered a different story. They claimed a car pulled up, 2 gunmen jumped out, and opened fire before speeding away. Whether it was one shooter or 2, the scene was chaotic, and the truth may lie somewhere in between the accounts. Honestly, the theory that there were two shooters makes the most sense here. Over 50 shots were fired, which would be a lot for just one person to pull off alone. According to a source I've spoken with, the scene was chaotic and reportedly mishandled by police, with some evidence left behind. That could suggest this case isn't exactly a top priority. At the same time, it seems the suspects knew what they were doing. They cleaned up after themselves and left little for investigators to work with. Police scanner audio indicated that the suspects were caught on city pod cameras, possibly driving a stolen car. An officer familiar with the case said surveillance footage shows the shooter fleeing in a stolen Infiniti Q50. Less than 2 hours after the shooting, that same car was found burned out on East 134th Place, in the heart of Ghoulie Gang territory. But why were Duke and Youngin here tonight? And let me remind you, this was not op territory or any typically dangerous area, it's heavily gentrified. Well, the reason they were here tonight was to celebrate Glicia's birthday. Also with them was Domo from 600. Youngin's last story was a picture from that bar with the caption, "We outside, DM gang for low." Now, the big question, who was behind the murders? There's been a lot of speculation. Theories have ranged from Taekwon World to Front Street, and even Ghoulie Gang / Bloodbath. I broke down those possibilities in my last video, and honestly, not much has changed since then. But one thing has become clearer through sources I trust: this wasn't the work of GDs, it was BDs versus BDs. Now, to be fair, BD on BD conflict isn't uncommon these days. Many sets under the same nation still beef. But this information does help rule out some of the more talked about ops like STL, Jaro City, or Taekwon World. The most credible theory right now points to Ghoulie Gang, also known as 130th or Bloodbath, from the Altgeld Gardens. That's based on a few key pieces of info. First, the getaway car was found torched near the Little Calumet River, right by Ghoulie Gang territory. Oblock has an active beef with them, and shortly after the murders, a few Ghoulie Gang members posted subtle jabs and mockery toward Youngin and Duke. Another detail that supports this theory: whoever did the hit drove over an hour from the scene of the shooting to the Altgeld Gardens just to dump and burn the car. That's a long way to go unless you're familiar with that area, or from there. Unless the shooters had another vehicle waiting to pick them up, which seems unlikely without additional evidence, it strongly suggests that the attackers were from somewhere nearby. And with the BD on BD angle confirmed, Ghoulie Gang rises to the top of the suspect list. They're BD, they have a documented beef with Oblock, they dropped hints after the murders, and they're located right where the getaway vehicle turned up. All signs, for now, point in their direction. The reaction to the double homicide was intense, both in grief and mockery. When the news broke, it hit like a bombshell. Duke being one of the victims made it all the more shocking. He wasn't just any name in the streets, he was a major factor, a respected leader in Oblock, and a key figure during the Get Back Gang era. As expected, rival sets like Taekwon World, STL, Jaro City, and Mob didn't hold back. They celebrated openly, both online and in the streets. Most of the disrespect came from Taekwon World, which is ironic considering they weren't responsible for the hit. Still, it's not surprising given Duke's alleged involvement in the murders of several of their members and affiliates, including Poppy, DB, Brick, Kobe, and Get Right. Meanwhile, in Oblock, the loss was felt deeply. Just a day or two after his death, the neighborhood came together for the traditional balloon release in his memory. Practically everyone showed up, including Trey 5, a former top member who's known to have cooperated with authorities. Despite his past, no one dared confront him at the vigil. His reputation still carries weight, and his presence was tolerated out of respect for the moment in his history with Duke. Munna Duke's death marks one of Oblock's most significant losses. He was an original member, closely connected with every top name in the set, and had long established his reputation in the streets. Rest in peace to Munna Duke. That wraps up this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay safe, and may God bless you all. Hosanna in Excelsis.